kitchen. I'm so excited to be sharing with you one of my all-time favorite meals, highest on my cravings list ever today, and that is Cuban Vaca Frita. There is a little restaurant in the mountains of North Georgia that made me fall in love with this dish. Shout out to Dan's Grill. And so today I'm going to make a homemade replica of what I found to be the closest I can get to their amazing recipe. Just as a reminder, I'm never going to teach you a recipe. My goal is always going to be to teach you how to cook. So there's going to be some things that we're going to adjust, but you're going to need, for sure, flanked steak. You're going to be needing onion, we're going to need some limes, and we're going to need some spices. Also, disclaimer, this dish is absolutely best served with white rice. Make sure you make some white rice to go with it because it is spectacular. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to boil the flanked steak for an hour to an hour and a half. The reason why is because it needs that much time to cook and tenderize because we're going to end up pulling it apart. All right, guys, so we can add the beef. I went ahead and just warmed up the pot with the water in it, but you can go ahead and add the beef prior to or after. The thing that you're going to want to make sure is that the meat is fully covered with water, okay? I'm gonna put that in carefully because it's hot. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure the meat is fully covered. Then I'm going to let it come to a boil. So it's on high right now. Once it's come to a boil, I'm going to reduce the heat to medium low, and I'm just going to set it aside for an hour to an hour and a half. And that's where the magic really happens. That's where it gets its flavor and it gets its texture. In my effort to teach you how to actually cook and not to follow a recipe, I'm gonna share with you that normally I use something from Badia. It's called sazón completa or complete seasoning. If you are Hispanic or if you have Hispanic family, you've probably tasted it before and it's definitely been used in dishes you've had. However, I'm in Mexico right now, and so they don't have all the same options that I had available to me previously. You'd think they would because Badia is a Hispanic seasoning, but here we are. So what I was able to do is find this sazonador de carne, which is just basically a meat seasoning, but I looked at the ingredients. So it has salt, organic garlic, organic onion, organic oregano, and organic black pepper. So that's a lot of what the sazón completa has, except that it's missing cumin, which I have here, and it's missing coriander, which is just basically ground up cilantro. So what I was able to find was leaves of dried cilantro. So in lieu of having that, I'm kind of just gonna play around with it and get it as close as possible as I can, but I'm really confident it's gonna have the same flavoring. If you ever can't find an ingredient that you need, remember Google, ChatGPT, they're your BFFs, so you just need to go in and look and see what can you sub with, or like what's actually in the seasoning you're looking for. So just a little pro tip, one of the things that the meat is looking so cool. Wait, let me show you. Now that you've seen what it looks like if you don't lower the temperature fast enough, that's what the boiling should look like. So I went ahead and lowered it to medium low, and now I'm gonna set a timer for probably an hour, 15 minutes, and then check in on it and see how soft the meat is and if it needs just another 15 minutes or so. So once we're pulling apart the beef, it's going to be marinating in the marinade, and I'm gonna put it in this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make the marinade in here straight away to use less dishes, because I am notorious for using many dishes when I cook. When it comes to the garlic for this recipe, to be honest, I'm gonna go ahead and probably use like 6 cloves because of the amount of meat that I have, which you saw. I love garlic, and I think one of the best things about Vaca Frita is its garlickiness. So let me see, I've got 5 here. I'm gonna go ahead and use 6, and then I'm just gonna see how it's looking. One of the things that I actually really like to do with my vaca frita though is once it's already cooked and ready, I like to set aside a little bit of the marinade, and I like to serve it with a little bit of the fresh marinade on it because it just kind of enhances the flavor, especially if you have any leftovers and you're reheating them a different day. It's nice because it just kind of like gives it that zing and brings it back to life. So I meant to have 6, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna go with 8 because that's how many I broke off. So we'll go from there. So one of the things that I absolutely love the most about knowing how to cook and cooking is exactly like what I was talking about earlier. When I get a craving and I really want something really bad, I can actually make it happen. And granted, I don't know how to make all of my favorite dishes, and some of my favorite dishes are my favorite because I don't make them, because someone else makes them, because someone else's magic, it's what puts together that amazing flavor that I just get to enjoy. However, I do feel like there's something really magical about being able to satiate yourself with a great dish or a great meal or a great snack or treat when you're in the mood for it. Because to be honest, there's only one thing I love more than anything in this life, and it's food. So, if I can have what I want, I am a happy girl. Our garlic has been chopped, so we are going to go ahead and put it in this pre-prepared dish. Next, I'm going to, actually, let's pour some olive oil in there. I just got this today. So again, hashtag measuring with my heart, but I'll try to show you what's going on here. It's a fun thing about a slow dripping olive oil is that was a bit anticlimactic. I am going to put, just kind of gauging it also off of how much garlic is in there. So again, think of this like as a marinade. So use as much, and I might need to actually add more once I have the amount of meat to see how much it's soaking up. So I'm gonna start with that. But the next liquid we're going to use is lime juice. So this is also going to add a good bit of liquid that's going to help coat the meat while it's marinating before we fry it up. One of the things I had the privilege of growing up in Guatemala with was a lime squeezer. Always had one in the US, and now that I'm in Mexico, obviously it's a basic household item. You can find it at any grocery store. So I'm taking 2 limes today. Also, pro tip on the squeezing of the lime. After you've squeezed it, if you turn the lime squeezer sideways, you get a hell of a lot more lime out. Watch. Exactly. This olive oil smells incredible. That's how you know it's high quality, because it smells amazing and I can smell it from here. Look at this golden goodness. Woo! We've added olive oil, fresh garlic, and lime juice. Next, I'm going to start with this sazonador de carne, which is the beef meat seasoning. Here's how I'm going to measure, guys. I'm literally just going to take what looks like approximately a tablespoon-ish. Go ahead and put that in there. Note that this is already salted seasoning, so I'm not going to add any more salt. Once I actually prepare the beef, in this skillet, I'm going to taste it and see if it needs more. These are the hojas de cilantro, the cilantro leaves, aka coriander, but not ground up. So So I'm just, not that much of a measure, so I'm kind of going with what looks like a teaspoon-ish, maybe a teaspoon and a half. And then the cumin, I saw online that it's a good substitute. I feel like cumin has such a strong flavor that I'm a bit hesitant to add too much. So I am just going to sprinkle this one in because I'm a little nervous to overkill on cumin. Because it's such a, which I love cumin, but it's just not the vibe exactly that I'm going for with the vaca frita. So, now let's mix this up. And guys, it's looking so pretty. Like, if you actually make this recipe, please freaking comment and tell me how you liked it, because honestly, it's just been hard to find something that's good. It's been so hard to find something that's good. So if you take the time to make this, I would absolutely love to know what you thought about it, because it's pretty fabulous in my opinion. And I'm a harsh critic, to be honest. There's a lot that's kind of mid to me. This was freaking good. Okay, so this is looking like I'm gonna add just a bit more seasoning, because I wanna make sure it has enough flavor, so. And I do have a lot of beef, so I'm kind of doing a little more than I would if I was using a smaller piece of meat here. Okay, so the marinade is good to go. Do not put this in the refrigerator as it is, because you don't want the oil to harden. You want to leave it at room temp. Once we have we can go ahead and cover it, if that makes you feel good. But once we actually have the beef and we shred it, then we're gonna add it in here and let the magic really, really begin. All right, the meat is done and I've pulled it out and I've cooled it. So now we can go ahead and pull it apart. I'm gonna go ahead and use my hands for this process since it's all cooled off, but you kind of want to pull it as much as you can in strips so that you have the right texture. So not necessarily chunks. Like if you look at this, you'll see the way that it's cut, it's in strips. So you can pull it in strips and it'll have the right texture when you go to cook it. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, peeling the meat apart is a labor of love, but we're here for a really delicious dish and that's what we're gonna get. So on to the next step. Like I previously had said, I like to separate a little bit of the marinade so that when I go to reheat or when I finish off plating it, I'm gonna add just a little bit extra. So I'm gonna go ahead right now and take some of that out of the main. If you're separating it, make sure to go ahead and mix it so that you really can get that garlicky goodness that's at the bottom. Now I'm going to take the steak and I'm going to go ahead and put it in here and make sure that it really, really gets a nice coating. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and or use a fork. But you really want to get it all coated. Additionally, another option if you have an airtight container is to go ahead and seal it. Kind of move it around. So you'll see it start to coat. That smells so good. Okay, I'm going to show you what it's looking like. So now I'm going to go ahead and let it marinate. I'll be honest with you, the longer it marinates, the better. If this is something you're making like for dinner and you're able to make it even the night before or in the morning, it's gonna just soak up the flavor better. But at bare minimum, you wanna leave it for 30 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside. And remember also that the lemon juice is gonna help soften the meat. If it's feeling a little tough when you're pulling it apart, the lemon juice is gonna help with that. That's in the marinade. In the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and chop up our onions for the skillet, and we're gonna make some white rice. So everyone has different ways to make rice. I like to remember and edit the formula, which is 2 to 1. So 2 parts of water to 1 part of rice. Except I normally lessen the water just a bit because I can't stand when my rice is too watery. So probably more like 1 3/4 cup of water to 1 cup of rice, or a little bit more than that, but not a full 2 cups. That's just what works for me. But the bag tells you exactly how to make it, and normally it's 2 to 1. You also want to add in a little bit of fat with it, so that can be either butter or olive oil, and some salt, because that's really what's going to give the rice the nice flavor while it cooks. Now for the onion for this recipe, you're just going to take a white onion, and I'd say for the amount of beef that we have, go ahead and thinly, not too thinly because you don't want them to burn, but semi-thinly, not too thick either. I'll show you how. Go ahead and chop about half the onion for it. You'll want to chop the onion where it's about this thick in the rounds of it so you can see. You don't want it to be too thin or it's going to get crispy and burn, but you don't want it to be too thick either or it's not going to cook down correctly. Alright guys, let's wrap this up so that we can enjoy it. The rice is finished, so it's ready to go. So now we're going to go ahead and cook up our meat. So because of the type of pan I have, first I'm going to start by warming the pan. Probably at around medium-low. Then I'm going to be adding olive oil. Next, we're going to cook up the onions once the olive oil has warmed up. Go ahead and coat the bottom of the pan. And you're going to be separating the onion so it doesn't just stay in one chunk, but you're going to go ahead and separate out the different pieces of it. You can tell the olive oil is hot enough when it starts to get a little bit of a texture to it, and if you move it around, you can almost see the way that it's not flat anymore. So that's when you can go ahead and start adding in some onion. Just making sure to separate it. They are smelling so good. So you're going to want to be patient with the onions because I'm cooking them on low right now because I want them to get translucent, I want them to get soft and keep their sweetness. Now that they're getting to that point where basically everyone's corners are looking a little bit brown, I'm going to go ahead and increase the heat to finish them off. The reason why you want the onion texture to be right is because the vaca frita which is literally fried steak, is going to have a crispiness to it. So all that oil we've been marinating in, the meat is already cooked, so we're going to end up cooking it on high heat just to get it crisped, and it's going to pair perfectly with these onions that are soft and sweet. So you want that combination of textures. Like everything in cooking, a lot of it is going to be your preference. So the onions are just the way I like them right now. They are translucent, but they have blistered and browned a little bit. So let me see if I can kind of show you how it's looking. Now you can go ahead and cook the beef on top of the onions if you'd like, but because they're exactly how I like them, I'm going to go ahead and remove them from the pan. And I'm going to give the beef more surface area on the pan so that we can crisp it up. Now the pan is nice and hot because we previously had increased the heat. Actually, I'm going to increase it just a hair more because like I said, the beef is already cooked. The goal is just to get it crispy and get it to the right texture. So you're not going to need any more oil because the marinade has plenty of oil. Yep, and you should hear it make a sizzling sound as you're adding it in. Be patient It's taking a little bit of time for the beef to get crispy because depending on how much liquid the marinade has, that liquid has to burn off before it's actually going to start crisping the beef. But you're going to start seeing it turn golden. You're also going to see the garlic chunks from the marinade turn a golden color. And you really want to get to a point where most of it is that darker brown. It's all starting to get crispy on the edges, which is exactly what you want. You kind of want it to be multi-toned or two-toned, if you will, where you see that crispiness to it, but you also have a little bit of the softer beef in the middle. For the end, I am going to go ahead and add the onions in and let them get incorporated and crisp up just a little bit with this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and let it simmer the onions just to go ahead and get the flavor of it. Here is what it should be looking like. All right, friends, here you have it, vaca frita. You've seen the sun go down with me today as we've been working on this. But as I mentioned before, this is one of my all-time favorite dishes, and I understand it's a labor of love, but let me tell you, if you make this, one, you won't regret it, and two, if you make this for somebody else, they will be coming back to your house anytime. So let's go ahead and try it. I have a few lime wedges if you want to add a little extra to it. Que rico. Okay, and it's failing on the rice here. Super delicious. Texture is on point. Amazing. Guys, if you haven't already liked my channel and liked my video, I would really appreciate it if you do. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to upload stuff all the time. It's stuff like this. It's stuff that I love. It's recipes I believe in, and I want to teach you how to cook so you can make something delicious every time you're home and hungry. And as I always like to say, when I go to eat a meal, Provechito, which is the name of my company, which basically means bon appetit, or enjoy yourself, enjoy your dish. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you guys. This is good.